Elite Eight. We've got some NBA. We've got Major League Baseball underway. NHL playoffs right around the corner. Who knows? Maybe VR even has some like elusive tennis play for us. We're going to bring him in first, followed by Adam Trigger from Full Court Press and Total Bases. You guys have one job, and that is to get in the comment section, ask questions. As soon as the questions die, I'm getting out of here. It is Saturday. It is 80 degrees outside, and we've got 7 hours until tip-off. VR, welcome in. It looks beautiful there in Las Vegas. I know it was beautiful when I was there last week. Shout out to you. I wish I would have listened to you on Iowa. And Nebraska was my best bet on Thursday. That was rough. Iowa State last night. I think you were on Tennessee. It's just been one of those March Madnesses that have not been great for me. But I do want to talk about this Elite Eight and kind of get some of your thoughts on a couple of these matchups. We've got 2 today and 2 tomorrow, but there will be no show tomorrow, so I want to get into those. Now, have you seen anything since those lines populated overnight on the odds logic screen come across your screen?
No, I mean, nothing legit, like nothing, no significant moves to speak of, really. Like you saw a little half-point movement, like Illinois opened 6.5, goes to 7. Little move like that, but no like significant move except for a total. The only move that I could say this is a syndicate position is the under in Iowa and Illinois. They're steaming that one under. That's a legit position, and it's opposite the public, which is betting both of today's games over. No surprise they're betting Arizona over. I mean, they've been betting Arizona over every game, and it's turned out well for them. But they're also betting this Iowa-Illinois over as well. And that one's getting sharp money on the under, unlike the Purdue-Arizona, where I haven't seen any sharp money on the over, but the line's being pushed up by the public money pushing it. It's like one-sided over money, and the books aren't wasting any time moving that Arizona total upwards after what we've seen with them putting up all those points. So again, no surprise there. And the same with the sides. Purdue, Arizona, not much movement. I mean, it's either 6 or 5.5. Again, you could look at it and say some sharp money was taken at +6 on Purdue, but they laid the 4 at the opener on Arizona. And it goes to show you just how tight these lines truly are. Just look at yesterday's games. I mean, Alabama was 10. They lose by 13. The Duke game was 6. They win by 5. Like, lines are really, really tight. So it's no surprise to see sharp bettors on opposite sides at different numbers. You're not really seeing opposite at the same numbers, but you are seeing a difference of opinion once the line moves. And again, you know, that's what should happen. I'm coming off a split myself real quickly. I had two games that warranted a 5%, was Tennessee and Alabama. I thought both weren't getting enough points. So I made Alabama the 5. I made Tennessee a 4 and then threw a 1% money line on Tennessee. So it turned out well, ended up splitting. But yeah, it was a split. Today I don't have really nothing strong yet in these games. I have a lean. I like tomorrow's games a lot more. Real quickly, we'll look at those since you asked about them. As far as the Duke game, the only thing I've seen is under when the line first opened. It opened 134.5, got steamed under. But since then, you're starting to see the over come back. And again, most of the first moves are off power ratings. And then the matchup starts getting handicapped and opinions start to change. And you kind of saw this with the Duke. It opened 5, went to 4.5, then right back to 5. As soon as, you know, a little more handicapping was done. Michigan, Tennessee, this one moved as well. Money came in as soon as it opened on the Tennessee side. Again, they looked good coming off of their W. But once it dropped, right back with Michigan. And that's why they're sitting at 7.5. So you're getting favorite money in that game tomorrow. I expect that the public to be on Michigan. I think they'll tease Michigan. They'll money line parlay Michigan. I think they're going to be on Connecticut. They don't believe in Duke. So I do think if you like Duke, you'll probably be able to get 4.5. So it should get back to 4.5 there. If you like Connecticut, you probably want to grab the 5. 5.5s are out there now as well. That's for tomorrow. But again, today they're betting both overs, at least the betting public, Wise guys are on the under in Illinois and Iowa. And yeah, it's still early. Most of the money will be bet over the next couple hours. And that's where we'll see if these lines move. Kind of like I talked about yesterday, the money wasn't coming in until day of the game. They're not betting like 3-4 days in advance when you're talking about the lines are up for 5 or 6 days. They're not locking it up 5 days in advance. And that's why you saw that flood of money push some of those lines yesterday. It'll do the same today. But again, the public's heavy on the overs, and they are betting Arizona and they are betting Illinois. So they like the favorite in overs today.
All right, I want to kind of talk a couple things. Today you have the Steam Room right after this, and you'll go over everything with your clients. It is for subscribers only today. So if you're a premium subscriber of VRs, that is where you're going to get the most knowledge. It is great. But I do want to kind of give our last call guys a little bit of a preview. One of the things that I love that you did on Bet On It this year was you talked power ratings. So the last 8 teams remaining, I kind of want to hear what you have to say from a power ratings perspective. Give me a preview of kind of what guys are going to learn on the Steam Room. Just give me your top 3 right now. Who are your top 3 power rated teams?
Duke is still number 1. Nothing has changed, Kel. Nothing has changed for Duke as far as the number 1 team. Again, their strength of schedule is the only negative, but their 30-2 record offsets that. Again, you can only play who's in front of you, and that's what Duke did. Behind them is Arizona, no doubt. They are the one team I'm afraid of. The team I fear most that could give Duke the most problems is Arizona. So hopefully Purdue knocks them out. Because I'll tell you what, Purdue's a future that I'm have a ticket on that I like. They're that team that's being overlooked, but they're that team that's left right now that's more balanced than anyone else. I'll tell you that. They're about top 10 to 15 offense, top 10 to 15 defense, and they had like the 6th or 7th toughest strength of schedule as well. They're just not a sexy team. That's why they continue to be overlooked. I have them neck and neck with Michigan, and they're right there. Now that the Houston's out, I know Michigan's looked good, and a lot are moving Michigan up because I can tell by the line. Michigan's power ratings have been adjusted more than any other team over the last 10 days, just based on what the line was versus Alabama and what the line is against Tennessee. Is it warranted? I'm not too sure. Like I said, I put Purdue right there neck and neck with them, followed by Illinois. I was going to test Illinois because most don't think Iowa's legit, but I'll tell you what, I had Iowa as the 24th best team in the country coming into this tournament. So even though the AP didn't have them ranked, I did have them in my top 24, top 25. So it's going to be a tough game against Illinois. If Illinois beats Iowa, then they're 5. They're dangerous after that. But I have it Duke, Arizona. I'm going to have to give Purdue. I know people are going to tell me I'm crazy, but I'm going to have to give Purdue the nod right now over Michigan, put them neck and neck, Michigan, and then I'll put Illinois behind that. So those are the 5 right there.
VR, let's take a couple questions from the chat. Craig wants to know, do you feel that Arizona plus 250 to win the whole thing is worth the wager? Now, I know you want them to get knocked out for your wager, but I would like to do a little handicapping and a little basic math here, because John Murray and I got in an argument 2 years ago when he's like, we're just going to roll the money line over on Yukon, right? We win the whole thing last year. It would not have worked with me with Florida either. There was more money to have bet the future bet. So plus 250. So Arizona has to beat Tennessee. Then they would have to beat Michigan, or essentially the winner of the Michigan-Tennessee game.
They play the winner of Michigan-Tennessee.
And then, so that's my point. By the time you roll it over, even though there'll be a small favorite, probably Michigan, right? -1, -1.5.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Right there, right there.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. But you roll those 2 money lines over. Again, I don't have a parlay calculator in front of me, but it's going to be right around that plus 250 mark. They would be an underdog to Duke in the national championship game, albeit a small one. It makes more sense from a handicapping perspective, correct, from a mathematical perspective as well, to roll those 3 money lines over.
Because they're not that high. Yeah. Where Arizona sits right now, you're better off rolling it over, betting them today on the money line, hoping that they play Michigan, because that's where you'll get a better price, because against Tennessee, they'll be, heavily favored. And then again, there'll be a slight underdog if it's Duke, if it's, Connecticut or someone else, they'll be a favorite, but they won't be a huge favorite. And again, unless it's like Connecticut gets in there, they won't be a big favorite, because even against Tennessee right now, a true line, I only make Arizona about a 3-point favorite over Tennessee, 3.5 max. So I would definitely do it that way. And I think it's a decent bet. Again, I keep it real. When the tournament started, I thought there was value on Duke at the price, and I thought there was value on Purdue at the price. But over the last 2 weeks, I definitely think that Arizona is the most dangerous team to my futures. And at plus 250, I would roll that over. I don't think it's a bad bet. I like them as a future. I don't like the plus 250 now because of what I have. But if you don't have anything, that's the way to do it. I would just roll Arizona over.
Yeah, I've got some splash contests that are still alive, and I'm projecting it to be Duke, Arizona in the final so that I have a team left over. We'll see how that works out for me there. VR, you have anything else you want to share with us before we get you out of here?
Real quick. It's going to go off at 9 a.m., 12 Eastern. I have a play over at Sports Memo. I said I'm only putting gold over there, Kel, and I think I'm 7-0-1 my last 8. I think I'm like 10-0-1 the last 11 bets. I'm trying to win my 7th in a row today. It's a UFL. It goes off at the top of the hour. I saw it in multiple accounts. Makes sense to me. The line's still available. I said, I got to go try to make it 7 in a row. I'm going to put that over at Sports Memo instead of at Wager Talk. So subscribers already got it, but that's available at Sports Memo, only $7. Again, that goes off at 12 Eastern. My Elite 8 package will be up within the next 60 minutes. Once I confirm that side and total that I'm looking at, tomorrow I should have a 5% as well in college basketball in the Elite 8 for Sunday. UFC card is up. Multiple 4% are in there. More plays will be added, and the Steam Room is at 1 p.m. Eastern. Join us, and let's do some damage. Good luck today, Kel. Good luck to everyone.
Thanks, VR. I could really use it. I kind of knew that Iowa State result before it even happened last night after seeing that you were on Tennessee. Shout out to you. Shout out to everybody that gets to join you in the Steam Room today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Oh, by the way, VR has a new X. I retweeted it. It's Gianni the Greek _. You guys can see it right there on the screen. So make sure you guys head over there to give him a follow. He puts out a ton of great information on X as well. Thank you, VR. We're going to bring in one of the guys from Full Court Press. I found out this morning that Rob Veno is like still on vacation or something, which I did not know. But we got Adam Trigger. He's also doing Total Bases. So if you guys have any baseball questions, we will take them at the bottom of the hour. Next 15 minutes or so is completely dedicated to the Elite 8. Trig, I just want to start with today's games. Right off the top, Iowa, Illinois. Situational like perspective is Illinois off that insane second half versus Houston. I mean, they just smothered Houston offensively. That was a hard-fought, nice win by Brad Underwood in the Illini. Iowa, though, it's just they feel like they're having a good time, right? I had Nebraska -1.5. They're up 10. We're cruising. Next thing I know, halftime, there's Nebraska. 4 players on the court. I'm screaming at Fred Hoiberg going, what are you doing? I think they were down 1 or 2 at the time. And I knew at that moment in time that I had a losing wager on my hand. But I say all of that to say that Iowa is really just one of those teams. I think they're having fun. I think they're playing with house money. They didn't expect to be here. And those kind of teams can be a little scary in the tournament, especially this late.
I would agree with that. I think I was having a great time. I mean, I think you could make a case that they've played 3 of their best games of the season in succession in this tournament. I mean, if you go back to, even like the beginning of February, they did not have a great month to close out the regular season. And they kind of just bowed out of the Big Ten tournament. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that they are playing far and away their best basketball. And I'll tell you what, they're having a lot more fun than they did when they played Illinois earlier this season and the entire team had the flu. So go back to that game. And, it wasn't you had a 75-69 game in Carver Hawkeye, but I'm pretty sure at that point it was like a team-wide flu that Iowa was battling for like a couple of weeks. I'm going off of memory. in terms of like who was in, who was out. But if you go back to that time period, that Illinois game was a part of 3 consecutive losses for Iowa. And I know the Minnesota game prior to the Illinois game, they certainly had guys out. So I think they were still coming off of the flu, and they actually lost to Minnesota, Iowa, Purdue in succession right there. So again, like, yeah, I think things are going better right now for Iowa than they were, when these two teams met earlier this year.
Here's my thing, and I understand that now with NIL and the transfer portal, that teams no longer own each other, right? Like, I want to say, oh my gosh, Illinois has just owned Iowa over the past 3 seasons against the spread, right? Iowa just cannot seem to get it, but it's a completely different team. It's now a completely different coach there with Ben McCollum. So kind of just have to throw those types of stats. But this year was a bad game. Knowing that there was some flu involved makes that one make a little bit more sense. And someone who follows basketball as deeply as you do knew that. I didn't know that. I go on Ken Palm. It doesn't say anybody had the flu. It gives you the final results and the stats of the game and how it played out. So give me kind of your synopsis on what you think this Big Ten matchup in the Elite Eight and how it's going to go down.
Yeah, so as far as the matchup is concerned, like, listen, no one owns Ben McCollum at this point. If anything, he owns you. I don't know that there's a guy in college basketball right now making like better adjustments, better game plans. Kelly, the Florida game, I think he held them to 60 possessions. I mean, to be able to do that on a short turnaround, remember, that was round of 32. So these teams are in the same boat that they were last weekend with the 48-hour prep. And to hold Florida to like 60 possessions and win that game, it probably, I mean, I don't think anyone was not impressed with Iowa, but I just don't think it was as big of a fluke as like maybe people think, because the game plan completely worked. Yes, they were able to execute and get a good look off at the end, but still, I think Iowa deserves more credit for that than they're getting. The interesting thing here for me, Kel, is Bennett Sturtz, one of probably the most impactful players in college basketball to their team, is only 6 for 28 from 3 in the NCAA tournament. And it's like, imagine he's shot the ball better to this point. So again, I really do like the Iowa side here. I think they're getting too many points.
All right. I would agree with you. You don't want my opinion on college basketball right now. It's been rough. I did Mad Dog Sports Radio this morning, and I just absolutely, the guy on before me was like, oh, I love the Blue Bloods. I'm a Texas alum. And I'm like, oh, of course the elite want the elite to keep leading. And I don't. I want these Iowa type teams. They are the Cinderella this year. I want the have-nots for a really long time to finally be some haves. And I said, if you want Blue Bloods, just go watch the women's tournament. That was my mic drop, because just lay 30 with Yukon or UCLA or Notre Dame or whatever the other schools are that are left. That's who the Blue Bloods are. Tennessee, on the other hand, not a blue blood in women's tournament anymore. They miss Pat Summitt a lot. That being said, let's go to the later game today, Trig. Purdue, this Purdue team, I don't know what to make of this Purdue team. They were really gritty, really, really gritty there. Now they face Arizona, 5.5-point underdogs here. I keep waiting for Matt Painter in March. I know that sounds very lazy, and it's not meant to be a lazy take, but I say that because that's what we've seen recently. But the fact is, that's all we've seen from Arizona for forever. Since the last time Arizona won a national championship, they've been an early exit team here in the tournament. But I think that this is an Arizona team that has a real shot here to win the national championship.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, this is, I know Gianni was talking about power rankings and stuff. If you were to power rate the teams, I mean, you've got to like Arizona to be in there, at the end. But the thing is, Kelly, and what I've really sort of noticed, and started to lean into over the course of this tournament, we just talked about Iowa, Florida. You can look at, there's just a Yukon last night's a great example, is like matchups, I think, matter a lot more than the power rating right now. Now, now you look at that Michigan-Alabama game from yesterday. I didn't think it was the worst matchup for Alabama, and they kind of showed why in the early going, but Michigan was able to wear them down. I think that's kind of what you're looking at potentially here, because I don't think this is a bad matchup for Purdue necessarily either. The last 2 rounds, Kelly, Purdue had to go up against teams that were far more athletic, Texas and Miami. And they were also, if we're just talking about this from a betting standpoint, they were laying 4 possessions against teams that were just more athletic than they were. And they probably should have paid for it in that game against Texas. Very fortunate to get out of that game with a win. Here, though, like Arizona I don't think they have quite the athleticism as a Texas. They're big. They're certainly going to play like, for example, they're not going to give much up on the glass. Purdue's not going to get second chance point after second chance point in this one. But from like a defensive standpoint, it's not the worst matchup for Purdue. They're just going to plant everyone in the paint. They may dare Arizona to shoot threes. That might not be the best idea because Arizona is, relatively accurate from 3 in terms of the percentage they shoot, but they don't take a lot of them. So I think that's a little bit deceiving. People are going to look and say, well, Arizona's a good 3-point shooting team. Yeah, because they don't take many. And when they do take them, they're typically high percentage looks. Purdue, though, may force them into more threes than they're comfortable taking. And if they don't, and if they force the issue at the rim, they might be able to get some stops. So I don't dislike that matchup for Purdue. On the other end, listen, Purdue from an offensive standpoint, and I've criticized this team plenty. I've criticized Braden Smith for the turnovers and kind of regressing a little bit. They're still 10th nationally in field goal percentage and 12th nationally from 3. You get Fletcher Lawyer going and he bombs 4 or 5 in pretty quickly. Suddenly, I think, Purdue might be a tough out here. So I understand the love for Arizona long-term, especially if they can get through this one. But this isn't the worst matchup for the Wildcats. And, I think Gianni said something about maybe, some sharp money to the under here. Probably not the worst look with Arizona maybe taking more threes than they want and having a hard time getting near the rim. Certainly a harder time, Kelly, than the first 3 meetings where teams were just putting Arizona at the free throw line. The first 3 opponents in this tournament that Arizona faced could not defend them at all. I think they've lived at the line pretty much the entire tournament so far. That's not going to happen against Purdue. Purdue doesn't foul like that. So maybe an under here.
Under. Interesting. I know you do have a 5% up at Wager Talk right now for the Elite 8. Do you have anything over on Sports Memo? I know VR said he was going to head over there. $7 Sports Memo Marketplace. Baseball play over there? What do you got going on?
Yeah, I'll have at least. So I've got 2 client baseball plays locked in right now. At least one of them will go over to Sports Memo. If someone asks the right question, I may give one out on the show. I see some folks asking in the chat, but I'm not going to get. I'm going to see what kind of games they want to talk about. Maybe it'll come up. Maybe it doesn't. I did throw the. I threw the Duke zip up on. Really to troll our pal Joey Cheese more than anything.
Oh,
because
boy.
I guess I'll say a couple words on that game real quick. Like I was on Yukon last night after kind of just trashing them for weeks coming into this tournament. And I think that illustrates my point perfectly where this tournament is just, matchups matter so much where it was like, but coming into the NCAA tournament before we had a bracket, Kelly, I didn't like this Yukon team at all. I think I even said Siena would hang with them. And you know what? They probably would have after seeing that first round performance against Duke. But Yukon got past Furman, got a banged up UCLA team without Tyler Bilodeau, and then got the dream matchup last night against Michigan State. That was just a great matchup for Yukon. And you know what? Even with that great matchup, they still needed big time clutch free throws from Alex Karaban and Terrace Reed, who's not a good free throw shooter, to not blow an 18-point lead. If Karaban doesn't hit the front end of that 1-and-1, they probably lose. They probably lose at the end of that game with Michigan State getting the ball last. And it was as good of a matchup as UConn could have asked for. Duke, right. I know they've I was going to say, like, Duke's gotten heat in this tournament. Obviously, they didn't come to play against Siena, and they almost had a disastrous start, disastrous exit, but they didn't come to play in the first half, Kelly, against TCU, came to play in the second half, ran them out. Couldn't match St. John's physicality last night for long stretches, but when they did, they sort of got it done. Didn't get over the hump for the spread, but they won the game, and they won it by multiple possessions. I kind of think Duke destroys UConn here. My number doesn't agree with that. My number shows a little bit of value on UConn, but I'm going to hope that people maybe bet Yukon and take those points over the next 24 hours? Because I think I might punch back there if the right price
I'm
comes
just
available.
going to say this. I think Duke is vulnerable. I think if we learned anything
Yes.
from any of these games, I've watched all 3 Duke games. It's the most Duke basketball I've watched all season long. Here's the reality. I know VR has them number 1. Ken Palm has Michigan number 1, Arizona 2, Duke 3, Illinois 4, right? Everybody's going to have their different set of power ratings. I'm going to say this much. The chat was talking about futures bets. And of course, my page expired. All right. Right now, Arizona plus 225, Michigan plus 285, Duke 3-1. Next up is Illinois plus 675. So just something to keep in mind there. Everybody else is double digits, but just something to keep in mind there. Arizona, Michigan, Duke. I mean, it's basically a 3-horse race, it looks like there. But as far as Duke goes, you mentioned that Siena game. I took Siena in our Calcutta. We just needed them to cover the spread. If they would have won outright, holy would that have been great? They did not, obviously, but man, they looked really good. And I think the way to get to Duke is to play that low-scoring game, right? They lose to North Carolina in the regular season in a game in the high 60s. They almost lose to Siena in a game in the high 60s. Last night, St. John's was a little bit of an anomaly there because the game was played in the low 80s. But if Connecticut wants to win this game, I absolutely think it's going to be played in the high 60s. Dan Hurley, we know, great ATS coach. They cannot beat themselves. They've got to stop with the turnovers, and they have to make their free throws. That is the only way they're going to beat Duke outright, in my opinion. But again, I've been getting my ass kicked, so don't mind my opinion on this one.
You're not wrong, though. You're not wrong about that. I mean, Duke's, if you can make them uncomfortable, you can make Boozer uncomfortable. It's what Siena did. It's what TCU did for a half. And then St. John's is as intense physically on the defensive end as anyone, then you can beat them. But I guess my whole thing with UConn is they're going to kind of, they'll deny transition, but like Duke doesn't mind running some half court offense. And I do think if Duke can sort of get in a half court game, that they'll eventually run enough, their offense will work. That's the nice thing about Duke, and why I almost think at 3-1, against those other teams, like I kind of think if I had to pick one of those 3 teams, I'd pick Duke to win it all, just because I think over 40 minutes, their offense is going to work against just about anyone. But they do have to toughen up, Kel, because that is the thing with them. They've kind of got punched in the mouth and got away with it a couple times. I don't know if Michigan punches them in the mouth. I don't know if they get away with it. So it'll be interesting to see.
No, that will be interesting to see. Let's talk about Rick Barnes. The comment section was kind of roused me a little bit. And fair enough. We talked about Izzo in March. We talked about Hurley in March. Rick Barnes got a nice win last night over Iowa State. They absolutely dominated the glass. And it was kind of crazy because that's what I thought TJ's game plan was going to be. I know you're not bigger than Tennessee, but it was like Iowa State just was like letting them get rebounds. It was like I joked about them channeling their inner Angel Reese, and I just meant like get your own me bounds. Like, what are you doing? It was awful. Yes, no one is correct. Bet the opposite of Kelly right now. It has been basically, I joked on Mad Dog Radio that I must have sold my soul inadvertently to the gambling gods on Thursday to cash that VCU ticket. Because it's been really, really ugly ever since I get to the Westgate Superbook Friday morning. Santa Clara sets the tone for the day. And good thing there was a lot of margaritas at the win pool because I needed them. And I had a nice blackjack run, but it sure didn't make up for the atrocities on the hardwood. Trig, let's talk about Rick Barnes here in March and this very large Tennessee team that he has. Do you think that they have a shot here against this Michigan team that, albeit Alabama looked great in that first half? I didn't watch much of the second half. I had it on the split screen, but I was focusing on the Iowa State game. They just stifled Alabama in the second half, and that's the way to beat Alabama. That's not the way to beat Tennessee, though. Tennessee's not trying to run and gun with you. They're going to beat you in the paint. They're going to beat you. They had 4 dunks against Iowa State. I'm like, how do you have these wide open dunks? Like, I was just absolutely floored at multiple times last night.
Yeah, listen, like Tennessee, the interesting thing about this matchup is they're not, I don't think they're at a size/physicality disadvantage against Michigan, which most teams are. I mean, Iowa State really struggled with Tennessee's just size, more so than I thought they would. I did like Tennessee in that game. I didn't play it on full court press earlier in the week. I said if you like Tennessee to take the 4.5, I didn't think Josh Jefferson was going to play. He didn't. It proved to be an issue. But I will, again, this is another thing. Like, Tennessee was not a team I was very high on for long stretches in the season. Was very vocal about that on my show with Rob Veno in Full Court Press. And suddenly they're here in the Elite Eight. And why is that, Kelly? Because this tournament oftentimes is more about matchups than it is about who the necessarily best team is. It's almost why I kind of think Duke and Michigan end up playing in the national championship game, because they're the most sort of matchup-proof teams, in my opinion. I feel like they have an answer to just about everything. And that's why it almost feels safest pitting those two teams against each other. But, of course, Tennessee has a chance here because of their size. And, if obviously, I don't think you can say that they're going to get beat on the glass at this point after the generational performance that they turned in last night, rebounding the basketball. But the same thing with Tennessee. The issue for me with them, even with them playing better, is that after Gillespie and after Ament, they don't have as much shot making as you would like, and maybe not enough to beat a team like Michigan, who we saw in a little bit of a challenging matchup yesterday with Alabama in the first half, and yet Michigan still found a way over the course of 20 minutes to completely blow that game open and win. So, see, like Nolan in the chat, he goes, he shit on UConn leading up to the tourney. Yeah, because here's the thing. I was just kind of profiling the team in general, but UConn has drawn just insanely favorable matchup after favorable matchup. So that's like what you have to, I think this is a really interesting point in terms of handicapping these games. So Kelly, I'm just going to make this point to you. Okay. I show number value on all four underdogs. All four underdogs. My number shows value on Purdue, Iowa, UConn, Tennessee. But my handicap does not line up with all four underdogs. So you almost have to ask yourself, and this is why betting the Elite Eight is challenging. You've got a number, you have the matchup, and then you have to ask yourself, do I want to, is it good enough to pay said tax right here or not? And then in all of this is factoring in kind of what he's saying. Well, yeah, you didn't like UConn. No, I didn't really like UConn as an overvalued Big East favorite or against St. John's, a team that I think they'd match up poorly with. But the way it's worked out, UConn's only had to play 3 of the teams in this tournament, and they've been decent matchups. So does that come to a head tomorrow against Duke? I kind of think it does. Do I want to lay 5.5? I don't know, because my number shows value on UConn. Welcome to trying to bet the Elite Eight. That is literally how it is. I was
just getting ready to say, like VR said to start the show, there's very, very few sharp people are rushing to the window right now to get in bets because there's not a ton of value. There's an argument situationally, there's an argument mathematically, but there's a very small window of value in between those two. And I agree with you. Like, that's why I love these splash contests, Adam, because like I'm over here going, all right, I'm debating. So I get through last night. I have 2 left. I get through last night. I'm going to ask who you think I should use. So I did Field of 8. Your buddies over there, they had a $10,000 guaranteed for $10. And I was like, you know what? There was only like 300 people in it. They weren't anywhere close to even filling. It didn't end up filling. So there was, I think, a $1,000 overlay. But I was like, all right, let me get in while I can. So I get in. I buy 1 entry for $10. And I'm like, all right, just for fun, I'm going to be out the first day. I take Iowa, Illinois, advance. I take Duke, Michigan yesterday. I think I've got to take for the Elite Eight, Arizona, Yukon. I've already taken the other 2, but then that leaves me with not a lot for day 9. That's the problem, right? I mean, I want to save Arizona for the national championship, but that means I've got to either take Tennessee and UConn. That's my only option. I got to have 2 outright underdog winners so I can save Arizona for the national championship. And that's where those things get a little spicy. In mine, I have taken Louisville, Utah State, Nebraska, St. John's, Purdue, Duke. I did Michigan, Illinois for the Elite Eight, which will leave me with Arizona, UConn for the Final Four. So I need UConn to beat Duke, and then I can use Arizona for the national championship. Oh, it's racking my brain. But again, I got plenty of action because that's $250,000 guaranteed on a $25 entry. I bought 10 of them, but you get the idea.
I'm still alive in, I think with a couple of my high school buddies in the, or Siena buddies. Sorry. Wow. In the VSiN one. And the thing is, like, you realize, Survivor is really challenging. Like, basketball Survivor, NCAA Tournament Survivor is so difficult. Like, we're at this point where it's like, you get to this, if you get this far, you think, oh, I'm still in it in the Elite Eight. You almost need to run the table from here on out to win it. Like, you pretty much need seven or eight outcomes for this point to go your way to win Survivor. So, like, we're in the same boat where it's like, I think we're going to need Iowa. Like, so, and that's the other thing where I kind of like, we're talking about, and it's like, well, if we need Iowa to win or we're eliminated, well, we should just use them because we still have them available. Right. So it's like, you wouldn't want to create a scenario where you need two events. If something's going to happen that's going to knock you out, it's almost like just use that and then don't put yourself in a position, because otherwise the only way you're going to cash, Kelly, is if no one wins.
That's what I was going to say.
Someone is probably going to win.
That's the hardest part, right? Is I'm hoping, I think in this one, I'm thinking what I have to do is hope that nobody, like that people already used Illinois or Michigan, because I guarantee people are going to use Duke, and Yukon upsets or Purdue upsets, right? Because I was saving the other two. And then it's basically everybody's at like a stalemate because they have nobody left. And then we split the 250,000. I think that's that's probably what I'm going to be actually rooting for. And the $10,000 one that the Field of 68 guys set up, there's only 77 of us left, I think. And it doesn't power rate you based on, like, it tells you everybody's availability, right? And what people have left and what you think they're going to pick and so forth. 181 got eliminated last night with Iowa State, 99 more with Michigan State. But a lot of people were trying to take shots at Alabama and St. John's. And I didn't want to do that because the name of the game is survive and advance, whoever can go the longest. But if you don't have teams left available, guess what happens?
Yeah. Well, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question so we can make this like kind of like more of a, like an actionable, like, I guess, close it out with something actionable. If you are in like a pool that, let's say you just referenced one that only has like 77 left, do you think it's possible that ends with no one having the champ left, where you could be chopping it a few ways?
I think that's what happened last year, if I remember correctly. There was a chop.
No, the winners last year, because I know Aaron Kidd won it. CT won at least like a couple of them. Okay. They all had Florida. Okay. So they all had Florida.
Well, I had Florida too, right? So I mapped mine out to have Florida to win the whole thing. But I was out of teams in the Elite Eight and had to use Florida. Does that make sense? Like, yes. Like, and then you're hoping that everybody else loses to chop. I mean, you've got to map it out. Yeah. He said there was a huge chop.
Yeah, but last year's was very chalky with
but only
teams in the Final Four.
$8,000 on a $25 entry is not so bad.
No, for sure. I think that might have been the $100 entry that he won $8K on, but still, like but this year there's like last year, like everyone's sort of path panned out last year. Duke was in the Final Four, Houston, Florida. I mean, if you get like, let's say you get an Iowa in the Final Four, or you get like then I guess like I theoretically, I think it's a good conversation.
Two entries and they mapped it out really well.
Yeah, I think it's a good conversation though, because like people may just be like we're like, well, we got to use Iowa because we won't have a champ. But it's like, if we don't, we can still get to the final. We just wouldn't have a team. But I guess the way I'm looking at it is someone going to have it? Probably. Right.
Well, that's why I have to take in the Field of 68 one for $10. Who cares? I'm going to take both underdogs because I want to take a shot at it to be one of the only people left. Right now, if Purdue beats Arizona, I'll still have Purdue left. They're not going to, in my opinion. I think Arizona is the best team, but because I've already used Duke and Michigan yesterday and Iowa and Illinois the day before, I kind of screwed myself a little bit there. It is what it is, but we'll see kind of how that one ends up playing out. I just need one of those other teams. I need both of those other teams upset. Let's be real. And then this one, I have Michigan and Illinois. At least that time, the one that I put on Trig, I was smarter about it because I had mapped it out right throughout the whole tournament. With the field of 68 being double picks every day, I didn't map it out correctly. Yeah, it's double picks every day. I screwed up on the first day because again, it was 10 minutes before tip. I saw they had this huge overlay. Again, they ended up still having $1,000 overlay. And I put in Iowa, Illinois really quickly. And I screwed myself because now they play each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it was the right result to have Iowa and Illinois beating those other two teams. But I should have picked from opposite sides of the bracket.
Pretty much need an MIT degree to figure college hoop survivor out. That's what I've realized.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit of baseball. We got 9 minutes left not even 9 minutes left. I'm going to talk a little baseball. Trig, you have 2 baseball plays up for sale today on Wager Talk. You will have one up on Sports Memo. What else?
So actually, no, the baseball is going to go on Sports Memo today. I've got a 5% college hoop play in one of the 4 games that's up on Wager Talk. I will put any baseball that I don't give out in the next 20 minutes here on Sports Memo for $7. So that's what we'll do today.
Okay. All right, guys. Any baseball questions? Adam, what do you think of the Guardians team total? Do you do a lot of team totals? Talk about total bases, what you guys are going over. I know we kind of tweaked your guys' format a little bit this year. I know a lot of the guys want to hear about the big games early. You guys want to take audience questions so you can have some of those under the radar games. I know you're going to be doing a segment on Wager Talk called Under the Radar as well. But talk to me about what else you can expect on that show, as well as your standalone video for Wager Talk's YouTube channel.
Yeah, so we really didn't shorten the show. People were like, "Oh, the show is shorter." It's just we're trying to fit it into the 45-minute window for the overall programming schedule of Wager Talk, but we're going to accompany it with each doing 15 minutes on our own each day. So really, last year you got an hour from the 3 of us. This year, you're getting 45 minutes of us together and then basically 45 minutes of us on our own. And all of that can be found on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Now, in the other, I'm going to do a segment called Under the Radar. I did my first one yesterday. I'm going to have another one up today where I'm going to focus on guys that I've watched a ton of at AAA that are now in the big leagues. So yesterday, we talked about Mike Burrows. He was the pitcher for the Astros, gave out a strikeout prop over and it hit. So again, I'm going to be looking at stuff like that. Now, for me, the things that I bet, MLB sides, AAA sides, Korean baseball sides. But I got to be honest, Kelly, I am getting more interested in the prop markets. I just am not confident enough to start firing those out as client plays yet. Plus they move a little bit. So I'm going to kind of use that segment to test some stuff out. Like I said, yesterday we had a strikeout play win. And I'll probably put something over there today. As far as the question about the Guardians, I don't really do team totals that often, but they do come up on the Total Basis show. Tokyo Brandon is probably the best guy to ask for specifically for team totals, but I'll talk about the Guardians in general. They're a big fade for me this year. Yesterday on Total Basis, my best bet was the Mariners on the money line. It was a little juiced up at -165, but it won. It was part of the 3-team parlay that we hit yesterday on the show. And, the reason that I dislike this Guardians team is because past Kwan and Jose Ramirez, I just don't see where all the offense is coming from. The second thing, if you want to talk about AAA, I don't think they have much in the pipeline. So I don't know where the reinforcements are coming. And then this is a team the last couple of years that has heavily relied on pitching and bullpen. And this certainly is not the bullpen of 2 years ago. And I don't even think it's the bullpen of last year. So I'm pretty anti-Guardians at the moment. I don't know if you're going to get a ton of value in the matchup tonight. Like I said yesterday, you still had to lay -165 on the Mariners. But what I will say is this: I think the Mariners are the best team in the American League. So I would only be looking to back them here. So it would be Mariners or pass. And listen, Brian Wu, he's way up there in terms of quality of starting pitching, which the Mariners have a ton of. So yeah, if you wanted to go Guardians under, I couldn't really talk you off, but I think my stronger lean there would just be the Mariners to win.
All right, let's talk another big game over here. And I just lost it because I didn't star it. Any thoughts on Braves Kansas City?
Well, I'll say, like, again, I talk about trying to, like, figure out props and rate the players correctly. I would definitely look toward Bobby Witt anything today. He sort of seems to be like what I would consider the highest rated hitter of any player that's playing today in any matchup. So again, I'm not going to like give out something specific there, but I do like his matchup. Let's put it that way in this game. But I'll say this, the Royals, like, if we're talking about these two teams in general, I'm pretty anti-Royals this year as well. I know Sean is fired up about this because he's just counting the wins in the chat for the Tigers. As I say, like, I dislike all these other AL Central teams, but the Royals, like, this is a team that's pretty hyped up this year, Kelly. And what I see is, not a great starting pitching staff, and then a bunch of guys that just played in the World Baseball Classic, which is, I don't think is the best omen coming into the season. We've already seen, like, Paul Skeens get blown up. Some of the other guys that played in the WBC, Aaron Judge had 4 strikeouts on the opening day of the season. And the Royals, like, I think their entire team was there. I don't think anyone had more players play in the WBC this year than Kansas City. So I'm not going to totally come on here and sell the Royals like the way I just did the Guardians, because there is talent there. And the guy I just talked about, Bobby Witt's as good as it gets. But early on, I'm definitely willing to fade this team. And I think the Braves, because they've been hit with the injury bug a little bit, might be a tad underrated coming into the season. So -145, if I could scan over to sort of like my number for this game, because I didn't play this one yet. And I don't think I probably will. Like, I think -145 was a little steep for me, but I really don't want the Royals. So again, I in this game, I think I will just throw out Bobby Witt. I think he has a really good game today. You want to go hits over, hits, runs, RBIs, total bases. I think something Bobby Witt correlated, especially because, listen, when you're hitting props, if you can find a road team hitter, you're getting your full complement of at-bats. I don't really like to bet hitters that are on the home team if I can avoid it, because I do think losing that at-bat in the bottom of the 9th inning, it matters, in my opinion. It could mean the difference between a 5th at-bat or not getting that 5th at-bat. So the fact that Witt's on the road and he rates out as highly as he does today, I think Bobby Witt props are a good look.
All right, Bobby Witt props. It's not how I wanted to spend my last call before football season, but that is where we're going to end it. Shout out to almost 2,000 of you guys watching live. I know we don't have games tipping off for over 6 hours.
How much time do we have? Can I give a client play out quick? I got one. I can close it out with. I want them to get something I actually bet. So
fine. I was going to let you promote that you're going to start doing total bases on Saturday. So before you give out your client play, let everybody know what your plan is for Saturdays going forward, because this is my last one until August.
Yeah. So Saturdays going forward, it's going to be a more baseball specific show. Pretty much total bases 2.0, I suppose, in this time slot. Sure, next week we'll still, maybe we'll comment on the Final Four. But, total bases is pretty much going to sit in this spot going forward on Saturday. And then, of course, you can catch myself, Tokyo Brandon, Brian Leonard on a daily basis, 9 a.m. Eastern on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. I have a 5% play in college basketball tonight. If that's what you're interested in, that's up over on my page. And, these games are hard to handicap right now, but I'm having a really good week in college hoops. So I'm kind of just like leaning into that as we hit the home stretch of the season, going for my 4th win in a row. Bayou's joking. He says, Trig's begging to give out a client play. It's only because I've got another one I've got one to spare here today. So I will have play up on Sports Memo. That's a baseball play, but I'm going to give you the one that goes first. So I played the Rays -104. It's a 2 p.m. Eastern game, one of the first baseball games off the board. And Kelly, I know you want to get out of here, so I'll keep it quick. The Cardinals are going to be bad this year. Now, I don't think they're quite as bad as maybe they're being made out to be by some people, but the reality is they probably have a bottom 5 team in terms of like talent, and it could get ugly for them. Now, they came out opening day. They rattled off an 8-run inning to come back and beat the Rays, win 9-7. And these two teams didn't play yesterday. So now the Rays have kind of had a 2 days to sit there, think about that. It was a pretty bad result for them, in my opinion. And you've got 2 young pitchers, Boyle, McGreevy. It's a relatively even game on paper. But the thing about the Rays, shout out to my guy Sean in the chat, props to his organization, because that organization does as good a job as anyone at making you look at a roster on paper and being like, nah, this team isn't that good. When really, like, they always find this collection of players that wins in the margins, probably as good as anyone in Major League Baseball. And so once again, I think people are a little bit down on the Rays when they maybe necessarily shouldn't be. So you come off the 9-7 loss on opening day. I just don't think the Rays start 0-2 against this team. Pitching matchups relatively even. I would give the Rays an edge in the bullpen, and they're only -104. But I just think the fact that they're going to, they were right there to blow. I mean, they were up 7-1, somehow lost 9-7. I just don't think they're going to let that happen today. And the Cards might actually be bad. So let's go Rays -104. That's a 3% play for me at Wager Talk this afternoon.
Okay, if you guys are still awake after that breakdown, no, I'm just joking. I see the comment section giving me a lot of grief. No, guys, it's just let out a sigh of relief. Kelly's got some time off between now and August. I love baseball season. Love it, love it, love it. Trig, thank you so much for hanging out solo today while Rob Veno finishes up his Vegas trip at Adam Trigger WT on socials. Make sure you guys give him a follow. Again, Under the Radar going to be every single day, Trig promised me, on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Total bases, 5 days a week at 10 a.m. Eastern, Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys tune right in here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. If you guys haven't already, please give us a thumbs up. Give us a little like, if you will. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another moment of Wager Talk TV. On that note, I'm out. I'll be back in July with some NFL and college football season win totals. See you guys then.